So let me ask you then, who do you predict has headway on being the new global power?
I believe what you're going to see is the alliance between Russia and China and India as going to be the core base between they're going to be the fundamental financial, political structure or counterpoint to the United States with this new emerging paradigm, which is going to be basically backed by the UN swap mechanisms that 22 countries around the world starting November last year agreed to, where they could buy goods and services or buy oil directly with their local currency through a yuan swap mechanism with a yuan swap bank located in their nation state. So I believe you're going to see the quick demise of American power and the emergence of this new alliance, this trilateral alliance between China, India, and Russia.
So is it that Americans are so, not conditioned, but and asleep seems now so cheesy to say, but just and dumbed down, insult totally, but denial, don't want to believe it, don't want to see it?
Well, I think I'm going to quote Chris Hedges here, who's an American journalist specializing in American politics and society.
Yes, okay. He's amazing.
He explains it best, why it's taken so long for many people, including the astrologers, who should know better, all right? Why nearly all forms of governance why is it taking so long for even the political astrologers to realize that all forms of governance, at least the governance we have been familiar with, is really about maximizing corporate profit at the expense of its own citizenry. When he says, and quote, the ability to grasp the pathology of our oligarch rulers is one of our gravest faults as Americans. We have been blinded to the depravity of our ruling elites by the relentless propaganda of public relation firms that work on behalf of corporations and the rich. And I'll also include those public relations firms are basically is the mainstream media.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I want to interject to send listeners to Google. It's a BBC production, and just type in Freud and Bernays and watch that documentary, because it is the onset of the PR movement and the manipulation of collective mind within a particular culture to shift the entire consciousness for corporate profit based off psychological manipulation and used within the media.
Right. So, I think we can say that we're in a crisis now, and since the beginning of 2008, we're really witnessing the continued intensification and acceleration of social and political breakdown worldwide, right, throughout the globe, due to a weakening economic environment of bankruptcy, monetary debasement, high unemployment, underemployment rate, large-scale demonstrations, nationwide strikes, and riots throughout major cities, leading to an increasing polarization and political partisanship, especially in this country, with government taking measures against its own citizens worldwide. This, I believe, will ultimately lead to a radical reconfiguration of the monetary system, followed by the global power structure between now and 2020. So you're going to see a major shakeup with the financial system, social revolution that will spread into global political revolution. And by the way, the ground zero for all of that, based on the nation state which gets hit the most, if you use the black box modeling where we can actually take which nation gets hit the hardest during this period and then put it onto a scale and graph it out, it's the United States.
Yeah, I mean, hands down. Absolutely.
Hands down. Right. So the greater the denial that we are in, the greater the outward symptoms, the pathology will start playing itself out in a much more uglier way, in a much more literal way. So Theodore White and I, we talk about these things on a weekly basis with each other, and even though we work independently, we come to pretty much, we're 80% together on our conclusions, and we really believe that when what hits the fan, we're going to see what plays out in the United States make what's happening in Ukraine or in Iraq and Syria look like a picnic. I really do believe we're just overdue for a major social revolution, similar to what we saw with the counterculture revolution in the 60s, except we'll call it counterculture revolution on steroids.